to another episode of From Felon to Fabulous. I'm your host, Terrence Leftridge. The purpose of Felon to Fabulous is just a regular show with regular people who want a chance in life. A chance to be able to move past the hurdles and the negativity associated with being a felon and being incarcerated. They've done their time for the crime, and now all they want to do is shine. And they will let you know that they are going from felon to fabulous. Today's guest is Andy Williams, and he's got a fascinating story of change that I'm sure you'll want to listen to. He tells you how he's a returning citizen after 26 years of incarceration. But the good news is over the past 4 years, he's gone on to have a full-time job, plus start his own residential cleaning business. He's an outreach worker for ReConnections Outreach, and this is a story that you'll definitely want to hear. So let's join From Felons to Fabulous. Hey, it is an unstoppable day. Welcome to another episode of From Felons to Fabulous. It's all about the mindset. I am your host, Terrence, the unstoppable Coach Leftridge, along with the beautiful, vivacious, and ever entertaining, the professor herself, Brenda Ringwood. Hi, Brenda, how are you?
I am absolutely unstoppable.
I love it. I love it. Check is in the mail. And we are so excited to have another episode from Felons to Fabulous. We're going to have another exciting show. But as always, we want to give you guys an idea of the purpose of From Felons to Fabulous. So Brenda, tell them why this show has been created.
It's created because we're just regular people that want a chance in life. And there are challenges and roadblocks put in a felon's life that stereotypes them, that bring negativity and brings all these things that are hurdles for us to jump over just to have a normal life. And it's not right. It's time to be heard because people can change. If a person who is not a felon changes, we tend to accept that, right?
Yeah.
But we don't want to accept the fact that somebody's been to prison can change. And we're just people. And change is possible if the individual wants it.
Absolutely. And this show is all about change. And we know that there are felons that have done their time for their crime and now they want to come out and shine, but they struggle with what to do now that they have been re-entered back into society. So this show, we bring on ex-felons who are doing fabulous things in their life, in their community, in their country, wherever they are, so that you can know that if they can make the change and they can go from felon to fabulous, if you stick and stay, take notes and put things into action, then you can go from felon to fabulous too. Now we have another great guest. So Brenda, why don't you introduce this phenomenal person and then we'll jump right into our interview.
You know, this guy, I met him a couple weeks ago. He was a connection of a connection. And he's got a fascinating story because he's truly changed his life. And when I say that, he went out, he got a job. He went out and became productive. He also went out and gives back to his community. Not only does he do that, he's also started a business on the side, which is turning into his regular income. That is what the American dream is all about, right?
Absolutely. And you said it was a connection of a connection, and this wonderful guy is creating reconnections with people who are coming back into society each and every day. So let's welcome to the stage the outreach director of ReConnections himself, Mr. Andy Williams. Hi, Andy.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
Well, we're doing fine. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to join us here on From Felons to Fabulous. And what we like to do at the beginning is give people an opportunity to introduce themselves to our audience, because we know you can introduce yourself way better than what we said in the script. So take about 30 seconds, Andy, and let them know who you are.
Thank you, Terrence. Well, my name is Andy Williams. I am a returning citizen, as they've already said. Currently, I'm outreach director for a nonprofit called ReConnections that does help returning citizens, men and women, trying to reenter into society through coaching, education, and employment. I also have a full-time job, and as she said, a cleaning business, a small commercial residential cleaning business, and a proud grandfather, husband. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's nice. That's nice. But before we actually get started, tell us how long you served and where you served your time.
So I served my time in Michigan, and I served 26 and a half years inside prison.
It's a long time.
I was incarcerated in 1992, and I was released in September of 2018.
And since then, look what you've accomplished in just 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I truly believe, I love, Bryn, when we talked about, our definition of fabulous and it being about mindset. And that was just one of the things I enjoy so much, is that we have the ability any second, any day, anytime, any of us, to completely change our life. All we have to do is make that decision, and a lot of times we may focus sometimes, and maybe bad decisions get more attention. But, you can make good decisions for your life just as quick as you can bad every day. And that's just something that I've learned and I embrace. I think one of the things that really stood out to me doing time, there's a lot we can unpack, but was the freedoms. And the first thing that I found was my spiritual freedom, truly. But then there's other freedoms, there's social freedom, there's financial freedom, there's physical freedom. And, you spend all those years, and what I tell guys, men and women, to make decisions for yourself or to do things that truly, meaningful things for your life, for your family, because it truly is out of your control. But then upon release, you've been empowered again, Brent, as we've talked about, to do, some of the things I'm doing. And, I only share with the other men and women that success, to me, truly is it's different for everybody. We all define it differently. It means different things to us. But I think when we can get to a place in life when we're doing exactly what we want to do and we're happy, I believe that individual is successful.
Happiness is key. And you said exactly what I preach about. I tell people all the time, my definition of success is happiness. Because without happiness, none of the other things matter. If you're miserable, what's the point?
Right.
When you've done decades in prison, tell me how you felt when you first got that sentence and you realized how much time you were going to be doing. What went through your mind?
Well, I was 17 years old when I received that sentence. I received 32 to 50 years. And I think if I had to use one word to describe that feeling, it would just be hopeless. At 17 and, have never been in trouble, never been to jail or prison. And just to know that you're going to do life in prison, it's hopeless. That was exactly the feeling. Not knowing if just the uncertainty, there's no light at the end of that tunnel for a 17-year-old teenager.
Well, yeah, you haven't even really lived your life yet outside of being a kid, that you don't even know what your life was going to be like. So to have that sitting, that's just a big weight sitting on top of you, and then the unknown, and then you're basically a kid going into prison.
And that was some of the challenges coming home. And I know that's some of the things that you talk about and deal with. And it's just having zero life experience. When I went to prison, I lived with my mother, and I'd never rented, had an apartment, never owned anything. I don't even think I ever handled more than $200. I mean, as far as cash is concerned, just no life experience. And on top of that, growing up without, I had a stepfather. It was a poor relationship. That's kind of a long story. But I mean, most young men, or well, women too, but growing up without a father, they have an old proverb that says, anyone that doesn't teach his son a skill teaches him to be a thief.
Wow.
And I've always thought about that, I just, at that age in my life, I didn't look up to anybody. I had no role models. I had no father. I was just making terrible decisions, and poor choices and friends and, So kind of lost at that age.
Yeah, at that age, you know the difference between right and wrong, obviously, but sometimes we let that peer pressure and what other people say, it really affects us more so as as a kid than it does as an adult. Not that it doesn't affect you as an adult either, but you're right in that I'm still learning about life, and then you get slapped in a prison cell.
Yeah.
Wow. So you got out. You decided that you were going to go after what it is you wanted. How was it when you first got out? Explain to me, after being in prison for 20 plus years, what that was like. I mean, that was like stepping into a new world now, wasn't it? You'd been in prison longer than you had been out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was, a couple of things really stood out. I can explain. So the first thing that really stood out to me was how large everything seemed to me. When you go in, 27 years earlier, you're familiar with an area and streets and landmarks and just different things like that. And so you got two things going on, at least it was for me. One, a lot of those things had changed. So the things that I thought or was familiar with, or, the way I was remembering things was totally, it's different. And so that was one of the challenges. And of course, then the other one is just absolutely not knowing how to do anything. I mean, I could give you examples. One, just so I wear glasses, and I don't like wearing glasses, so I had to wear them for years inside. And when I come home, and fortunately, I was married inside. That's another story with my wife that I've known for years. But she was going to go help me get contacts, and we went up to the desk. Now, mind you, I've never dealt with insurance. I don't know anything to do.
Right. Yeah.
So the first place we go, her treat, I'm going to go get you, we're going to get contacts. We're going to go see the eye doctor. And we go to the front desk, and there's a couple nice ladies, they're asking for insurance and this and that. My wife leans over and tells me, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And I literally had to tell her, no, you're not. Because I really did. And we laugh about it to this day because I was terrified, because I had no idea what to do. And you feel like, just for example, using that. So that appointment, I got to go in and see this eye doctor. Now I'm just walking home after 27 years and I have no history. So even the friendly questions of, so what do you do for work? Or, how, just the basic things that all of us can answer. I had nothing, and even in this case, he wants to know, well, what kind of work do you do? Because he needs to know how to help me with glasses or my vision. You do a lot of work up close, or, are you a laborer?
What's your stress level going to be? Yeah.
Yeah. And I just
say, look, dude, I just got out of prison. I don't know. I mean, what do you say? Yeah.
I had to deal with that at the dentist, and I actually had to just, I'm honest. So it's one of them you don't want to share if you don't have to, but when you're really pressed, and one of my dentists, the hygienist, just asking questions, I said, I just had to level with her. Look, I've been incarcerated. So I don't have a history. I don't know. Cause they want, well, where have you been? Where are you coming from? Who was your former, So anyway, it's just a lot of that. So you asked my challenges. I mean, that was just right out the gate, and it took a long time. And that's not including just how to do everything. My wife takes me to lunch. I don't know how to pay for a meal. You go to Applebee's, they got the little things on the table. You can pay right from your table, from the seat.
Right.
I never used a credit card. you know. I go to a gas pump, they're showing movies at the gas pump, you know, literally. They didn't have that, you know. Cell phones, when I went in 92, they didn't have internet. They didn't have, you know, cell phones like we have now. So there's just so many challenges. There were a lot of challenges.
You came out a whole new world, technology,
Literally.
information. I mean, everything now is at your fingertips. Where before, I think you went in when we still had pagers.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about the time I went in was with pagers, and, you know, the cell phones used to be the big suitcase ones, right?
Right. The phone in a bag.
Yeah, correct. But
an actual car phone. Yes.
Yep. But getting out and understanding what web browsers are and this and that, and, you know, it just no idea.
How
These
did you
smartphones.
overcome this? What prompted you to do what you're doing now?
Well, that vision started when I was still inside. One of the things that really opened my eyes, well, it was modeling. So, you know, there was a man that I seen that I knew inside, and, you know, his wife and he must have had about 5 kids, but he was a business owner. And I didn't see that he was really acting totally responsible, really, but you know, just the fact that he could own a business and that his wife come up, and I remember him telling me, you know, she takes care of it while I'm in here, you know, which was unfortunate. But I remember thinking that, you know, if he could do it, and I knew him, I'm like, well, I could do that, you know, having never been exposed again, because, you know, I was a kid coming in. So that was the first time I had that thought. And then the thing that really, you know, I used to love to read. I still love to read, but I used to read a lot, you know, and one of the books
that thing you do in there.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can either waste time, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things you can still do in there, you know, I mean, you can still abuse drugs, alcohol, you can,
yeah,
you know,
you can still do
available.
the wrong things, right?
You still definitely have the choice to do the wrong
You can even still commit crimes while you're in prison.
You can commit crimes, and yeah, everything there's available, but your freedom to move about outside of that fence, you know, but everything else is still there. But there was a book to answer your question, though. I read, and a lot of people are probably familiar with it. It was old at the time, was Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that was the first time that there was just a shift in my thinking that, you know, I could have financial freedom. I knew that coming home, I wasn't going to be able to do things the traditional way. You know, when you're 20, they tell you know, 18, you know, you go to college and get a job and start saving, and the miracle of compound interest, and, you know, 65 retire. Well, when I'm coming home at 45 with 20 or so years to retirement, that's just not an option.
No, it's not. You're starting over.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you still have 20 some years to go before you can retire.
Correct.
If you were to start a regular job right now and stay at that same job to earn the retirement.
And you can imagine all the many opportunities I had coming out with my criminal past to get a job that would support me.
You were just very well sought after. I mean, people were knocking down the doors to get to you, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm fascinated by the fact that Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a book that you read. How did that inspire you, and did that motivate you in a different way than up to that point of your incarceration?
So that taught me about financial freedom, was what, you know, key word that I always, you know, share with my wife and stuff like that. But that was the first time I really understood what passive income is. Okay. And how to create wealth, you know, and it's not that I aspire to be rich, and, you know, but I just want the same things that other people want, right? We want to be able to retire. I want to be able to take care of my family and kids and grandkids, and, you know, so that was the path. That was something I seen. I love business. And the more I read about it, and then towards the very end of my incarceration, I was able to take some college courses. They finally reintroduced that, which they didn't have for many years in the Michigan Department of Corrections. But I was able to get a business certificate from Jackson College. So, you know, expose myself to it that way a little bit. And Beyond that, I thank God personally. I mean, it's just I believe that we got to be able to recognize opportunities. And I believe, like you both know, with the right mindset and doing the right things, and and when you see those opportunities, you got to take them. And I've been blessed to see a few, and that's just exactly what I've done. I've capitalized on that.
Well, it's nice to see that you came out with a mindset to still succeed instead of the mindset of, look what all I've lost. How
Yeah.
am I ever going to make it through this? Nobody's going to want to hire me. And I know we think about that, but you still worked through that, because it's so easy to just give up and to go back to what you know, even if you go back to what you knew at 17.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
easy to do that. And you didn't. You stepped out. And, many will say, well, 4.5 years isn't that long. It's a lot of time. It's a
Yeah.
lot of time for you, coming from where you've been from for as many years as you've done, to come out. It's almost like stepping foot on another planet.
Yeah.
The way
I,
our world has changed, and you adapted to that, you embraced that, and you went forward. And I'm not talking about making tons of money. I'm talking about your mindset. You didn't let it stop you.
And what I love about it is, many times when we think of people who are incarcerated, we think of them just counting the time,
Mm-hmm.
just watching, putting the X on the wall or putting the X on the calendar. This day's gone, this day's gone. But you actually made the time count. You didn't wait till you got out to make something of yourself. You started the process of making something of yourself. You started changing your mind, and you started filling your mind with positive things, with inspirational and aspirational things. And then you moved into, as soon as that opportunity to get college credits and get some courses under your belt, you took that opportunity, where there's probably some other people that didn't take that
Mm-hmm.
same opportunity. Do you feel what you did behind bars helped you become the fabulous person that you are today?
I think it's really, Terrence, shaped my life. I think there's a process to time. I mean, you go in, there's a lot of adjustments. And I think the hardest thing about doing time is what we find out, especially if you do a length, is that you find that you're existing a lot of times. And that's a hard thing for human beings to do, to just exist in something that they feel is meaningless and no purpose. It's tough, and I think prison is especially hard on men and women that want more.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by, like, if you don't want anything, a lot of men and women can do good in prison, right? They give you a few games and you can lift some weights and hang out with your friends. But I think when you get to the point in your life that you really want something for yourself, for others, you want to make a difference. And I think when you find men and women in that position, that generally when we recognize and realize, that we've hurt people and just, the things that we've done, there's that desire to want to change and make things right. A lot of people, I think, in my opinion, that people, and I see that a lot in the work that I do with the men and women coming out of prisons and jails, is that the ones that have changed their mindset, they want to make a difference. They want their life to count for something. And so I feel like that did that for me. Just existing in there it's torture. It's not even the conditions. It's not all the other things that could go wrong, but when you're just forced. But on the flip side of that, Terrence, I think there's, when I say spiritual freedom, I mean, there's that. And then there's just freedom of mind too, right? So, I mean, you can't lock the mind up.
Nope.
And as you touched on, everything you put in, I believe 100%. That's why I love this show. It is mindset. 100% it's mindset, because you can take people. It's not the environment. You can take different people. Take two guys that were in prison for 30 years and you come out, one does great, one don't. It's mindset, and I've always believed that If you have, and it's a saying I'm borrowing, I know it's been said many times, but if you have a strong enough why, you can overcome any how.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So coming home and wanting things, I'm gonna do it. That's just all there is to it. I'm gonna do it, and it's the way you see it. So you get to think negative or positive. So I see everything that comes into my life. It's a learning experience, and that's just all it is. I don't see it as something going to set me back. It's just an opportunity to see what's right or wrong with the situation and just keep moving, because everything I'm doing in my life should be moving me towards my goals.
Absolutely. You did something most people won't do when you got out. You went back to working with people that are coming out. Some people want to get as far away from it as possible, but you chose to help those that are re-entering society again. Why that?
Years ago when I was and it happened to me personally too, there's a lot of prisoners that experience. So there's a process of losing everyone you love. I mean, this is just common. And in the way I look at this, all they have to do is go into a prisoner's visiting room in any facility, probably in the United States, see how many people are in that visiting room, look at the population. So, if you got a population of say 1,500 in Michigan, you might have 20 guys that regularly have people that come up and see them and love them. I mean, the visiting rooms aren't that big. Mm-mm. And there were a lot of lifers. And something I noticed too is that there's a lot of people that even though they've made a mistake, Bren, that's why I like how you opened up the show. Even though they've made this mistake, people change their lives, even in prison. Some of the best men that I look up to and admire are still in prison and never getting out. They're never getting out. And I know for a fact, if they had that opportunity, that they would do well. But they made a mistake at 20 years old that, they're paying the ultimate price for that,
and our government doesn't seem to believe that people can change even while they're in prison. Once you get that sentence, there's no reevaluating later.
Correct. And I realize it's tough. I mean, I want to look at both sides of it. I don't want to be biased and think, because there is public safety, there's a lot of things to be concerned with, but we also have to know that people can change, and they do change, and we should be able, everybody at some point in their life has needed a second chance, everybody. Right. And if we unpack it, we can sit down and talk to anybody, and we've all got a second chance somewhere. So the reason I do the work, to answer your question, I mean, kind of circling back, Scott, I told myself a lot of guys that go through the system, they complain, they hate the system, they hate the abuses, they hate just a lot of stuff. And I had friends in there that I know needed help, and I know the system needs to change, and it's necessary. Don't get me wrong, the system is necessary. But there's things about it that could change, and I know that we can make a difference, and I think nobody, we used to have people that would come in. I'll give you an example of something. I mean this in the best way, but you have people come in that are degreed up. They run programs, never been in trouble a day in their life, but they don't get it, and we used to tell them, and respectfully, because I love them and they know it, but I would tell them, look, I can get your degrees and I can get the things that you're coming in with, but you can't get what we have in here, so the ability to be able to relate and understand and help others that are re-entering society, some of the challenges. I've asked God, and my goal for my life is just like people have modeled for me. Part of my motivation is to be able to model for those men and women that are coming out, to show them exactly what you're talking about on your program. A lot of people that know me, I tell them no limit thinking. You can do anything. And I believe that, any of us, if you have a strong enough desire and you want to do it, you absolutely can do anything.
You sure can. And the will and the drive to actually make it happen is your mindset. Correct. It is your mindset. And you can stay stuck and you can stay living in the woe is me. But where's that going to get you? And, you said it. When I got out, the first thing that I wanted to do was bury my head. I was embarrassed. I'm going to run into people. My mom said, do you want to go into McDonald's? Because I wanted McDonald's, right? And I said, no, let's just go through drive-thru. And she looked at me and she says, no, we're going inside. And she knew that I was wanting to hide. And she said, you did your time. Get over it. And she said, if people have a problem with this now, it's their problem. So I did. I went in, but it's still in the back of my mind. I'm looking around the room. Is there anybody in here I know? And you go through these motions of embarrassments. You're ashamed. You go through all of these things that you think because of where you came from, that your life is over. And I finally just said, no more. No more. I can do whatever I want to do because nobody can take my experience or my education or the way that I feel away from me. And when you said spiritual, I had my come to Jesus meeting while I was in there many times. I mean, many times, like for the first year, right? I was a believer before I went in, but my life was so deep in sin that you wouldn't have known it. What was coming out of my mouth was not the way I was acting, right?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, God, I'm going to do it your way this time. I'm going to let you lead this. And I never would have ever dreamed that this is what I would have been doing if you would have asked me this 4 years ago at all.
Yeah.
So we have a lot in common there because 4 years can make a difference. 1 year can make a difference. 1 week can make a difference if you have that mindset.
Yeah, 1 day can make a difference. And, someone way smarter than me said that wherever you are in life, your mind got there first. And so if you're in a bad situation, your mind got there first. But if you're looking to find yourself in a new situation, in a good situation, your mind has to get there first. And that's what I love about your story. You changed your mind before your body physically got there. Your mind was already on the outside and moving towards greater things in Andy's life before Andy ever stepped foot into this whole new world that he found himself in. And because of that, you're doing great things. You've made great connections. And what I love about your organization, now you're making reconnections. You're reconnecting other people with this brand new world and helping them through the process as well. Tell us a little bit more about the organization, and then tell us how they can reach out to you if they want more information about your story or about what you're doing right now, Andy.
Absolutely. So ReConnections is a nonprofit organization in Flint, Michigan. We serve around the Genesee County area. We help people each year in Flint. There's about 400 people that are released, returning citizens come home to Flint, Michigan. And out of about them 400, there's about 100 that reach out for help. I'll back up to say this. When I was ready to come home, so now you guys know I went in at 17. And when I come home at, a week from being 44 years old, I asked them what resources were available in Genesee County. Now in Detroit, I know you're familiar with Detroit, Michigan. There's a few things down there, you can go here, there, but in Flint, I remember them telling me there was nothing. I mean, there wasn't even a pamphlet. There wasn't a phone number. There was nothing they can give me. So long story short, through my agent, I had asked about a resource, and she said, I'm going to connect you with a job specialist. And that man's name was Dennis Winan. He's the executive director of ReConnections. He started it back in about 2015. Very passionate, has a great story anybody would want to hear. Never been incarcerated a day in his life. CEO, God called him to give up what he was doing and start this organization. And it's amazing. So when I met him, I just knew, and even to be honest, at that time, I didn't need everything it offered, but this was my opportunity to learn, and this is where I could give back. This is where, I could use those talents God had given me to help and make a difference. And so what we do is we take men and women coming home through coaching, education, and job employment, because it used to be the stigma, a felon to get a job was non-existent. I mean, you guys remember that. You come home, you check the felony box, you're not even getting a job at McDonald's. And so I think at that time back then, the climate wasn't as friendly as it is now, because with post-COVID and the way jobs and, you know, employers need employees, they've really started to take a look, which has helped us break down some barriers for the men and women coming home. Because, you know, we know as well, too, when you come home and you do want to make a difference, we know that there's something to prove. And generally, and not to stereotype, but these men and women work very hard. They're, in fact, they'll work much harder than somebody who hasn't been through something or doesn't need it, you know.
Because they don't value it.
They don't value it, you know. And so we know that we got to work harder. We come out of the system knowing that we're going to have to really work if we're going to catch a break. So what this organization does is it guarantees a job. You know, the director has worked with a number of employers. I've explained the different levels of offenses and what we're trying to do. And we've allowed men and women to select themselves. And so in essence, we're gleaning out the best people that want to make a difference, people that we know are going to be successful. And we give them all the resources. One thing that they've done, Dennis has done, it's brilliant, is when you come home, and this could work in any city, I believe this anywhere, is that there are a lot of resources to reach out. So you come home and you need to run to this office and go downtown over here and go see your medical over there. And what he's done through this program is brought all of these people to this program. Okay. So there's representatives for financial institutions, for your medical, for anything that you need. And what we like what I'm proud about is when men and women leave this program, if they don't succeed, it's by choice.
Yeah.
Because every resource has been given to them. So at the end of this program, it's you know, a 5-week program, intentional, because we know that the first pressing thing that everybody needs when they come home is a job.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so we try.
Yeah. Especially at the state level, because on the federal level, you tend to get let out to a halfway house.
Right.
The state level, they don't care if you have a place to go, really.
They do not, and we do not have a lot of that available. That's something even here that's a need, is housing and stuff like that. So, you know, but to get a job is crucial. So, you know, we get men and women into jobs. Another requirement of this program that I think is really important is that they're set up with a life coach. And this is just someone that comes alongside, you know, stirs up the gifts. The requirement is for 6 months that they stay with their life coach. And we're very proud of the success. I mean, you know, you might only get, maybe 6 to 10 students a class. You can only do so many a year. But, you know, as far as recidivism, I mean, out of there's about 150, I believe, in the neighborhood of that. But I think we've only had 6 maybe return to jail or prison out of that number. And a lot of them
low.
Very, very low. Very, very low. And it's just something that we're proud of. If you go to the website, worker-ReConnections.org, you can go on there and see there's photo albums, events, different things about the organization. So you can check us out. You know, I'm in a class. I'm a graduate of it as well. So you can see me in, I think, class 15, I believe. You know, we teach the men and women everything. You know, you get them suits, teach soft skills, how to interview, you know, just everything to succeed, you know. And one of the things I like to tell people that I meet, and this is something I didn't understand inside, was you're not even told what it means to be an adult. You know, you go to prison at 17, who's teaching you, right?
Yeah.
You know, and who do you got guiding you in there, you know? But it was a long time.
Sometimes not the best people.
Right.
Sometimes not the best, you know, and it's a whole different culture. We know that, Bren. And, you know, inside there, there's things that you got to unlearn, you know, going in and out.
That's a statement, yes.
Yeah.
You have to unlearn some things. I couldn't have put it better.
Well, you know, I think the importance of reconnecting people to society is like, so when you go into prison, it's a total, you know, here's your mindset too, right? I mean, it's a culture change. You have to change. You have to change. There's a whole new set of laws that govern things. And, it's just life is different and you have to get, used to that. And so when you come home, it's the same thing. All these things that you've learned in there that's kept you alive for 30 years, you need to unlearn again and adapt when you're coming home.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's really tough. I mean, it can be tough,
It absolutely is. So give us some words of wisdom to our viewers that have been out, that feel they just aren't where they need to be. Give them some encouragement.
Well, my encouragement is that I believe, as I've already said, you can do anything. One of the greatest feelings I think for all human beings is that we are in control and have power over our lives. And I think when things go bad, sometimes we could make excuses, but when they go well, we're proud and we love those moments. And I think we get to choose each and every day. And I think my advice to kind of back up to what Bren said is that, put God first. That's just something when we talk about mindset, I think of Romans 12:2, without getting too preachy, be renewed by the transforming of your mind. That was part of my process, not just the book, but, it really began when I just told God. And, there's a scripture that says you got to lose yourself in order to find yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that. I think we get to a place in life where we're totally, we've suicidal, we're tired, we're ready to give up, meaningless, hopeless, all those words we talked about. But, God, it's, he will open up our eyes, and it's God that gives us purpose, that gives us meaning, that really can change your whole life. So, I mean, I guess that's the greatest words of wisdom I could give anybody, put God first.
That's great advice. It worked for me.
Very
It's what
good.
got me out. That's what got me out early.
Change your whole life. Everything changes after that.
It sure
Very
does.
good advice. And we're so glad that you shared that. We're so glad that you went from hopelessness going inside to fabulousness coming out. And I always say, thank God you don't look like what you've been through. You don't look like you've been through decades of incarceration. You are full of life, you're full of vigor, you're full of inspiration and motivation. And that is the key to becoming fabulous. So we thank you for sharing your fabulous story with us, Andy. Again, Andy Williams, Outreach Director of ReConnections. You can reach him at Andrew W. Make sure you get that second W at ReConnections.org. Make sure you put that dash in there. And you can go to their website and see all the fabulous things they're doing in Genesee County, www.reconnections.org. Andy, we thank you so much. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for all that you are doing in the community to help returning citizens get reconnected back to a whole new world and move from felon to fabulous.
Thank you very much. It's needed. People need you. They need what you're doing, and they need that hope.
Bren, Terrence, thank you both. And I would just say continue being fabulous. But God bless you both on the work that you're doing. So thank you.
God bless you too. Stick and stay after the recording.
Okay.
That is Andy Williams, you guys. Andy Williams, he is the outreach director for ReConnections. We thank you so much for being here with us today, Andy. And you guys, that is a wrap. That's a wrap for another episode of From Felon to Fabulous. I think it was a great show. What do you think, Bren?
I love anybody that has a story of change. Because, that's what I'm about, is I'm about change. But, with change, you have to have forgiveness. You have to have acceptance. And you have to have a vision. People say, what do you mean I have a vision to change? You got to know where you're going.
Yeah.
You don't know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, then what's the point, right?
Yeah, and as Andy
Yeah.
said, you've got to have that. You have to have that mindset to go from just existing to living,
That's
going
right.
from just going from just counting the minutes into making every second count. And if you need help in doing that, then you definitely need to watch this story, watch this show in the replay, watch all of our episodes from Felon to Fabulous, because we are interviewing fabulous returning citizens doing great things in the world that can help you, a returning citizen, go from felon to fabulous. And hey, maybe you might be interested in being interviewed for the show. Well, we want you to just go on over to FromFelonToFabulous.com, fill out our contact form, give us a little bit of information about your story, and who knows, you might be the next guest on From Felon to Fabulous. You can get that contact form by going over to our website, which is scrolling on the screen at the bottom, www.FromFelonToFabulous.com. I've been your host, Terrence, the unstoppable Coach Lethbridge, with the impeccable professor of change herself, Brenda Ringwood. This has been another episode of From Felon to Fabulous. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Hello, my name is Brenda Ringwood. I am the founder of the Becoming the Best You movement, where we help people become the best versions of themselves. I wanted to talk to you today about Dr. Lotus Richet's Harness Your Thoughts book that's coming out. You see, I'm out here walking my property. It's very peaceful. I live in the country, and I didn't used to have peace in my life. And if I would have had a book like hers a whole lot sooner, I probably would have started the movement B2BY a whole lot sooner. Because you see, I needed to harness those thoughts. I was using my thoughts for negativity, and I was thinking I wasn't good enough, and I just wasn't living to my full potential, and I had to realize that I had a value and a worth. And her book helps you to harness those thoughts, to get over the why me instead of the why not me. Why not you? You have a value. You have a great future in store for you. Use this book to set that future up. Harness those thoughts to propel your life forward. Dr. Lotus Richet's book is just phenomenal.
She Exists magazine, one of America's fastest growing publications, the best in travel, fashion, food, and entertainment from around the world. Check out our first edition of He Exists magazine. Looking for an ad space or feature? Contact us for your next spot. She Exists magazine, digital publication coming soon. Subscribe today.